We're jumping into Wings of Glory World War One. You've picked up the starter set. You've got a couple of planes. You've checked out the rules. What we're exploring in these vlogs, we're looking at the different wargaming systems that I really, really love playing. And we're building an attack plan, an acquisition plan to grow your miniatures, to look at some terrain, to look at gaming accessories, to get the most out of the narrative, to get the most out of the system that you're playing. Now, Wings of Glory is unique because all of the planes are pre-painted. $9, $10, $15 a plane, somewhere around there. You pick it up, you pop it out, you're ready to go. And what this means is it's really, really easy to expand your collection very, very fast because you don't have to build them and you don't have to paint them on there. In terms of acquisition, plane acquisition, this is what I would recommend. And it's interesting because the game is historically accurate with the planes. And the early war kind of single-wing planes are vastly underpowered compared to the biplanes and the triplanes, both in the power of the machine guns, the hull points, and just the maneuverability, the difference in the cards. Some of them are obvious, some of them a little subtle, but technologically how fast things advanced. So I would recommend focusing on the biplanes and the triplanes. You know, that's the kind of classic World War I, Aces, Knights of the Sky type time period. Then once you built up a nice little collection of those planes, then to start to branch out to early war, to look at some of the single wing planes, to look at some of the pusher planes on there, build out to there. I would move in last with bombers, simply because they're very, very powerful with that. The arcs of fire that they can cover means there is no really perfect way. There's no blind spot to approach them. Some areas of approach are harder or easier than others in terms of the firepower that you're going to face. But generally speaking, no one direction is safe. They have a lot of hull. And the challenge with the physical size of the model means you need a very, very big gaming table to play on there. They take up a lot of space. And of course, they look fantastic. You'll get into the bombers. But I would move to them last in terms of acquisition. So terrain. Wings of Glory, World War I and World War II also, we don't really need terrain to play it. It's not like a traditional war game where you've got hills and cities and buildings or sci-fi terrain. It's not naval combat, which even terrain is minimal. You might have some islands or you might have a coastline on there. Wings of Glory is literally the sky. So the easiest thing to upgrade your game would be one of the sky mats. It's a pre-printed map that it's the kind of that mouse pad neoprene type stuff in a sky pattern, or it shows the ground, you know, high up. I think it frames it really, really well with the visuals. And Wings of Glory, of course, puts out their own map. They tend to be a little pricey on there. I acquired two of them on a good deal, and I can say in terms of print quality, they are holding up amazing. I mean, there's a little bit of fraying here, a little bit of wear, but playing couple of games every other week for a couple of years. I mean, they have definitely held up very well. They roll up. The box that they come in is triangular. It shapes, it fits, it works. But there are other options to explore in terms of a gaming mat. I would recommend the gaming mat on there simply because it'll frame it, but also being that neoprene, it can push. You lay down the cards, you push the plane. It just makes the smoothness of playing the planes and pushing them, and sometimes if there's an overlap, putting your card down and picking the plane up, it makes it much easier. That said, in the beginning, I just played on a green grass mat, wargaming grass mat, textured mat. You can play on anything. You can play on the kitchen table. It works. But that upgrade, that primary upgrade, I would say, while there is no terrain, is to look at a mat. Taking it next step from there, and I play with this sometimes, clouds. balloons, Zeppelins. I know there's rules for Zeppelins. We play the Zeppelin just as kind of terrain on there. You know, you crash into it, you're kind of done. There are some things that you can do, even if you don't have to interject house rules. When we play with clouds, I have some, I took some cotton batting, you know, from a pillow, or actually it's probably not cotton, it's polyester, whatever. Spread it out, airbrushed it a little bit, had my buddy airbrush it, and then I hit it up with some of that sealant spray, like that clear coat sealant spray you use for miniatures. Hit it up with that. I mean, the whole thing is probably so flammable, it's insane. But that froze it. I mean, it still gives a little bit, but it froze it. And then I put it on a flight stick, an invisible plastic see-through flight stick on there at different elevation levels for clouds. And we just play with them as if they don't exist in terms of shooting and range and line of sight. I mean, you could. It changes the game. But just to add kind of that neutral terrain that doesn't necessarily impact the game, but it adds to the visuals on there. So looking at acquisition of miniatures, come up with that attack plan. Look at a gaming mat. Absolutely. You know, some systems you don't need it. Wings of Glory, it helps out tremendously also to frame it because terrain isn't necessarily there. And then looking at terrain, pretty much balloons, zeppelins, and clouds.